Hi, thanks for joining me for another free art lesson. I thought today maybe we would focus on fir trees. Fir trees are one of those facts of life. If you're going to landscape paint, sooner or later you're going to have to paint a fir tree. And by fir tree I mean anything that's a coniferous tree, needle type tree versus a leaf tree. So I've got a few colors here I'm going to be using for this, as well as a number 4 fan brush. I'm going to be using some green earth. These are Charvin paints. We've got some green earth, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue, cadmium yellow, pale, and titanium white. I've got other colors here on the palette that are from another lesson that I'm not going to use, but I will be using the green, blue, sienna, yellow, and white. And basically the fir trees tend to come to more of a spindle on the top. They taper, narrower at the top, fatter and wider at the bottom. I'm going to start out with some of the green earth. To darken that, I'm going to put a little bit of the ultramarine blue and some burnt sienna to get a really dark green. What I want to start with is the darkest green that's going to be within the tree. And I'm going to mat this together to a chiseled edge so the brush is very sharp. A lot of paint. I've got a little bit of a sense of some sky in this canvas just to let you know where it's going to lie on here, just to give it a little bit of background. And the idea is to mark the tree like this, as far as it's just a guideline to mark the trunk. And then I re-chisel it and get more paint back on the brush, and I use just the corner. You might want to practice doing this, where you're literally just touching little dots with the corner of that brush, because that's basically all you're going to start out with. And I take the brush like this, mat it together, leave a little spindle at the top for the angel to set at Christmas time, and I just tap back and forth. I'm going back and forth across the line. As I run out of paint, I flip the brush over in my hand and to the other corner where there's more paint, and you'll see it's just a lot of those little dabs like this that I'm doing with the brush, and that's all it is. As I come lower, I just mingle more of those dabs together so it gets wider and starts to taper wider as I come down. And notice that trunk line that I put in there is hardly visible anymore because I'm kind of obliterating that. I don't want that to actually show in the end as a guideline, so I kind of make sure that that's covered to a certain extent. One thing you want to remember, that the tree will probably be the thickest in the middle because you've got 4 shortened branches coming off the trunk and off the back side of the trunk, so there's going to be more volume and thickness usually through the middle. I know you see ones that are different than that are more sparse, but if you paint them that way, the viewer tends to question them. So obviously this would bottom out on something, maybe there's some land down here like this, whatever the case might be. But you bring that tree down like that. I'm going to show you what you shouldn't do, because sometimes it's easier to, I know what a lot of people's tendencies are when they do this, because I see it in my classes all the time. A lot of times I see this, where my students will take that trunk line and they just simply go straight across. And they just say, well, there's my tree. Well, that really doesn't look quite as much like a tree as this does. You want to kind of let the branches meander a little bit. Don't be too perfect with them. Now sometimes branches can go up, sometimes they hang down and droop down. It depends on this particular species of tree. If you want them to go up, you simply angle your brush and turn it as you go, and I can have upswept branches on this tree. See the difference? So it all depends on how you want your tree to look and what you're shooting for. It's all in how you manipulate that brush. See, the branches on this one are definitely going upward. Now to highlight that and finish this off, you can put a little bit of a sense of a trunk in these trees. I'll just do this one over here just to give you the idea. But when I highlight, it's going to be more of the same thing, just a different color on the brush. But if I were to take a palette knife, and I've got a Creative Mark S59 here, typical wet on wet type of knife. It's very common for that use. I'm going to take a little bit of the burnt sienna, possibly a touch of white, just enough to get this to show up on camera for you. If you didn't like it that intense, you can gray it down with a little bit of the blue or use any brownish trunk color that you prefer, but this is just for the sake of the lesson. I want to get it light enough to show. I'm going to pull this out very flat and wipe my blade off. And I'm going to cut through and get just a little sliver on the back side of that blade. If I come to the middle of the tree and just kind of touch and deposit a little sense of a trunk through the middle of the tree, I kind of do it randomly and sporadically, just don't outline the whole thing because you're not going to see the trunk all the way up through. Part of it will be hidden with needles that are hanging in front. I'm going to go back with the dark green brush. I'm going to take white and a little bit of cadmium yellow, maybe a little bit of the pure green earth, just something that's a lighter, brighter, sunlit tree green. Again, I got quite a bit of paint on this brush. Mat it together a little bit, chisel it up. Think of where your light source is coming from. If it's from the right, you want more illumination on the right. If it's on the left, you want more on the left. But you just kind of randomly work your way down. You'll see that that little extra light really sets this off. I'm just going to mix this color a little lighter so you can see it a little easier. Leave a lot of the dark showing in the tree. Now see, I'm just doing that same little dabbing motion that I did before. But notice how much volume that tree, it's got thickness now. It looks like you could reach in and grab that trunk and shake it. The dark needles tend to recede into the background of the tree. The lighter ones come forward. So that's all there is to those. This one would obviously be the same way, but I would, if I want the upswept branches, I kind of take my brushwork accordingly and I go in that upswept shape and direction. So that's really all there is to that. They're not hard once you try them. The thing you want to avoid is the tendency to overwork them. A lot of my students will just work these and work them until they get really hard edged. They lose all that airiness and looseness. So try this out. I think you'll find that that will help you doing these trees, and give them a shot. Thanks a lot and take care till next time.